Here's what's coming into view on Elevating Denver for November 2022. We go to the moon with the Apollo program.
And I think it really shows, when we put our minds to a project, what we can accomplish.
Volunteers support Denver's efforts to help families struggling with inflation.
Other people helping other people.
And MSU leads the nation in activation of college voters.
We sort of knocked it out of the park. We had a really high number of student voters.
These stories and more are just ahead on Elevating Denver.
I came into the rescue mission in 2004, struggling with alcohol addiction, drug addiction. I was homeless several times in my life, and that's how I ended up at the doors of the Denver Rescue Mission.
I just decided one day that Chicago was not the place for me. So chose Denver, packed up, moved out here. Didn't have a support system, community, starting from scratch. I ended up losing my job a couple years later and found out I was pregnant. Ended up leaving that job, not having any savings or anything, so kind of just lost, for a while. I ended up staying at a shelter that gave me a lot of resources, and Denver Rescue Mission was on that list.
I had pretty much burned every bridge that I had in my entire life, and I really was seeking help. I really wanted someone to give me some kind of hope.
As we get into the holiday season, it's such a hard time. For myself, there was no family here, so Thanksgiving was family, you have traditional things that you have every year with your family. To have people take time out to say, let's celebrate with you and prepare this lovely meal to make sure that no matter what's going on, you have this holiday to feel like, you're around people who care, people who want you to be happy.
You have these holidays come and we're used to them being so joyful and being around people we love, and all of a sudden those people are missing. And when you come into the Denver Rescue Mission, it's a new family that you are given. And there's now all these new opportunities for you to, feel like you're in a family setting where, you have people that you can love on, and you're just grateful and thankful to have a warm bed, to have a hot meal each day, to just have this new hope and know that things are going to get better.
At Denver Rescue Mission, one of the favorite things that we do is our Thanksgiving banquet. Somebody will come in interested in having a meal. They will sit down at a table and we will serve them. They do not have to wait in line. They do not have to wait for anybody to do anything but wait to bring them a warm meal with turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, cornbread, whatever the traditional Thanksgiving meal is. And when you put a plate with all those warm fixings on their table, they will have a sense of comfort and respect and dignity.
It may be one meal, and we could think about it as it's one time a year, it's one meal, but that in itself is a seed of just you're gonna be okay, and there's more good things to look forward to.
There is a sense around the holiday season, especially at Thanksgiving when it starts, that, it's a time for change. And that meal can be a significant time of change for the guests.
We're all human beings, we're all going through stuff. It just looks different for each one of us. And there are people out here that are feeling hopeless. They don't know where to turn, but that one person that they run across, whether it be a volunteer, a donor, you may say something to someone that just hits them really hard, and they keep that with them to keep moving forward.
People don't know how wonderful it is to just see someone smile at you, someone to say hello, someone to just be able to show that they care about you and your well-being, especially during the holidays when you really need that love a lot during those types of seasons. So it's wonderful. Nothing that happens here would happen without those volunteers and those people that, just share all the love in their heart to make someone else's day brighter.
Denver Rescue Mission encourages anybody who wants to help the homeless situation in Denver to come volunteer. If they don't have time to give, we would encourage them to donate either their money or donate food or clothing, whatever the case may be. We serve guests who are trying to get back on their feet. This is a community effort. Denver Rescue Mission is a central point in trying to revitalize people's lives who find themselves in homelessness. It's a big challenge, but we feel like if the community can rally around that through donations and volunteer hours, we can help make somebody's day better, but moreover, we could actually change their lives for the positive.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
What this exhibit shows is you're seeing bits and pieces of that amazing effort from hundreds of thousands of Americans. And I think it really shows, when we put our minds to a project, what we can accomplish, not only as a country, but really as a species. And as we think about some of the enormous challenges that we face in coming years, it's good to look back at a time when we're able to accomplish so much. My name is Ka-Chun Yu, and I am the curator of space science at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. So the Apollo When We Went to the Moon exhibit is a temporary exhibit here at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. So it has opened to the public, and we're going to be running through January 22nd. And it contains a bunch of artifacts, about 200 from the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And so it's basically about the history of the Apollo program, when we sent astronauts, the only humans to have ever landed on the moon and walked on another world. One interesting aspect of the Apollo missions was that it took place over the course of the 1960s into the early 70s. And during that time, if you think about it, it was also a time of turmoil in the United States. And so there were civil rights activists and protest marches throughout the 60s. We're also starting to see protests against the Vietnam War. And so one thing that this exhibit also covers is the fact that there were a lot of social unrest and a lot of things happening in this country. There's definitely something for everyone of all ages in this exhibit. And what I've seen is that people are really connecting with the fact that you're seeing things related to the space program. And I think for kids, for younger children, just thinking about space, thinking about what it's like to be on, walking on an airless, waterless, very forbidden type of environment like the moon. It's a great way to get people thinking about exploring places that they've never been or they never really thought about exploring. There are a number of fun interactives. There's, for instance, you can almost call it a play space because kids can actually interactively see their footprints on the surface of the moon, although I think adults have a lot of fun. What excites me is actually the lunar roving vehicle, the lunar buggy, as many people call it, because this is they started building this more than 50 years ago, but this was an electric vehicle that was sent to the moon. And today, people often talk about EVs, electric vehicles, and here's one that had the energy capacity of roughly about 1/10 of a modern-day Tesla, and about twice as much battery power as a Prius. And so it was actually a pretty amazing piece of technology. So it's definitely a fun thing to think about, and to be able to sit on it and to pretend that you're on the moon. I think that's a lot of fun for kids as well. As many of us know, Colorado has a long history with the aerospace industry, with the rocket industry, and with the space industry. And it turns out that, for instance, Lockheed Martin today, one of the companies that merged into Lockheed Martin was Martin Marietta, and they were involved with the Apollo missions. And we actually have some geology tools that were developed by Lockheed Martin. I think a lot of what's in this exhibit will hopefully inspire that next generation. When we look at the history of Apollo, it's not only a history, it's really a history of all Americans. And so one of the things that we added from the Denver Museum was more information highlighting what we would like to call the hidden figures. So women, people of color who contributed to the Apollo program and who until very recently were often ignored and left out of the history books. And so we highlight a lot of their contributions. And I think for people of all ages, people of all backgrounds, they'll find something that they can learn about and be inspired about from this exhibit.
Well, the library is an incredible place because we're the most public of all public buildings. There's no requirement to tell us why you want to come in. It welcomes everybody from all walks of life, and they try to connect people with the information that they need to better themselves and their lives. My small role in that whole picture is to create an environment where they can do that safely. I'm Bob Knowles. I'm the security manager at Denver Public Library. I enlisted in the United States Air Force in January of 1974. I joined because I was out of high school and had no money to go to college. I wanted both experience and an education, and I felt the Air Force gave me that best chance. After I was in, I realized it's a pretty good life. I enjoyed it. I was liking what I was doing. I didn't see any real reason to change that. I had a really, really good mentor and leader who instilled in me some of the things that I needed to grow, and I decided that the career was the way for me. The entire time I was a security policeman, served in many different functions, did everything you can do in the security police career field, all different types of operations, including protection of Air Force One. I retired from the Air Force in August of 1996. I've been at Denver Public Library for a little over 10 years now. As a security manager, basically I'm responsible for the entire security profile for the Central Library plus more than 25 branches.
Bob is amazing, and we never want him to retire. We joke about that. He is a true leader.
Bob is really one of my favorite colleagues. If I do have to work on a project with him, I really enjoy it because he challenges my way of thinking about things.
I love the way he interacts with his staff. He actually takes the time to do leadership development with them on the side.
He takes a lot of time with all of our staff and all of our leaders in other departments to really help people understand what security is for the library, what that team is trying to do.
Bob and the security team are completely vital to the overall feeling of belonging and welcoming and safety and security at the Denver Public Library.
Bob's approach is really to treat every customer with courtesy and respect and kindness, and you can really tell that he has instilled that in his own team.
My team is very, very active. We're well trained. Several of us have been through DPD's conflict intervention training, and we use those skills as necessary, but we try to build relationships with people. Here at the Central Library in particular, my team are the first people you see when you come into the library, and they're the last people you see when you leave. We try to establish relationships by welcoming people into the library and cultivate those relationships with people to help them understand that we're here to help.
Most of his team is wearing uniforms, and that can be intimidating for people. That can be, triggering for some people who've maybe had bad interactions with people in uniforms. But when his team then start talking to people, then they realize, oh, I'm in a place where I'm welcome. These folks want me to be here. And Bob's just created that environment.
We are information ambassadors for people who come in who are looking for specific service that we provide, whether it be genealogy or certain materials that they're looking for or computer use, connecting people with the right spot to get the information that they need. People trust us to know that we're going to get them, even if we can't answer their question, we can get them to the right person who can answer their question.
Bob makes the library a place where lots of people feel safe and welcome, and he provides the kind of energy that we'd love to see all of our staff have. I think his role and just the way he shows up every day is a key to our success as a whole. Probably the most important thing I can say about him is that he wants people to be at the library. His job really is all about making sure that everybody who wants to be here can be here, and that's really important to me.
Any chance Bob gets, he will tell you he was not a library person before he got this job. And he has fully bought into the mission of the library and like the place we are for people in this city.
The library is a place that has both passionate and compassionate people who want to help people for free. And it's amazing the work that they do to help people from all walks of life connect with whatever information it is that they need. But I think that Walter Cronkite, long retired newsman, said this best when he said that whatever the cost of our libraries, the cost is cheap compared to ignorance nationwide.
In 2016, MSU Denver had the highest undergraduate voter turnout as well as the high overall voter turnout in the country of all of the universities competing in what's called the All-In Challenge. That is largely because we spent a lot of time focusing that year not just on let's go around and tell students they ought to vote, let's go around and register more voters. How do we make it exciting? How do we make it fun? Not just to actually vote, but how do we sort of build this buzz on campus?
Welcome to the table, welcome to the event. So we're just talking to folks about what's on the ballot. Feel free to grab anything from our table, and we are just, getting the word out. We're out here today to talk to young folks about voting and really make sure they have the resources that they need to vote and to make sure they have a plan to vote. We're talking to folks about how to get up to date on your registration or register if you're not yet registered, because in Colorado you can register through 7 p.m. on Election Day.
The Solution Studio this year was one of the key ways that we could actually have students engage with candidates one-on-one and understand where they sit on particular issues.
What do you feel like you can better do to address, mental illness amongst college students? Because like I said, I feel like a lot of college students, when they perceive our government, whether that's local or federal, they don't think they're being supported in any way, shape, or form.
We can really empower innovation in this area at our institutions of higher ed. We can talk about the best practices.
So us creating the Solution Studio was a way for us to gather information from focus groups made up of students and have us form some problems that students see and want specific answers, not just sound bites or campaign promises, but how are you going to solve problem X?
Our question for many of these candidates are, how are you going to direct us on how to clean up this mess, how to create the solution?
Let's start with Brian.
There is a significant employment gap between a deaf and hearing individual. And what are you going to be able to do with the American Disability Act?
This is a huge issue.
Solution Studio is us finding a solution. It's us engaging the issue. It is us reviewing what the issue is. And it's also us realizing there is a solution.
MSU Denver is the urban comprehensive university for the metropolitan region of Denver. We serve a lot of non-traditional students, a lot of students from minority backgrounds, first generation, students from lower income backgrounds. We were established in 1965 really to serve the type of student that may not aspire to go up to Boulder or to the Colorado School of Mines, but that wanted a college education.
College-age students, we're a big demographic. We are educated. We know what we want. If all the college students voted, lots of changes would happen.
If students are introduced to voting and the power of voting early on, they begin to be engaged in other ways as well. If you're disengaged at that first step of voting, it's much more difficult to become more deeply engaged later on.
We have a lot of ideas we're really passionate about, and voting is the best, it's the most direct way to get involved in those issues. I vote because there are so many important things that are at stake. I don't want to be the reason why those things don't happen.
I'm glad you have a plan. And then, so we actually have this really helpful ballot guide that you can take with you. And I see you have one, and I'll give you one as well. So these just kind of go over the different ballot measures, both locally in Denver and statewide. Young people are really powerful. Young people care deeply about what's happening in their communities and their lives. And young people are a third of the electorate, and so we are really taking the state by storm, as we should be. And so making sure that young people have the resources that they need to access democracy, to make their voice heard, is so critical, because we really, we're part of our communities, we work, we go to school, we're active members of the community, and so we should really have a say.
The message is primarily that voting matters, because your voice and your vote can make a difference in influencing the decisions, not just of who leads, but then the decisions leaders take after they're elected. When they see that young people are turning out to vote, they're much more likely to then pay attention to those groups and come back and want to know what those groups are looking for.
November is a time for giving thanks. Families come together to celebrate the holiday, sharing in the warmth of one another and the traditional meals we've come to expect. But for many, growing inflation has made the ability to put a meal on the table a challenge. In October, the Department of Human Rights and Community Partnerships provided food boxes to support Denver residents.
And so today, as part of our inflationary relief effort in the city of Denver, we take some of our ARPA money and we are using it to help feed families who may be food insecure right now.
There's a number of cars that have already been through, and we're going to keep giving out all this variety of food, fresh vegetables, meat, to our residents.
On the weekend, we visited the food distribution effort. HRCP was in Montbello at the Ascension Catholic Parish. The response from organizers and volunteers was incredible. The atmosphere was energetic as Denver continued to show support for neighbors in need.
We're giving back to the community. We're creating an environment of giving, and it's just something incredible to see and be a part of.
Denver hosted 3 events throughout October, which would not be possible without the cooperation from nonprofits, community partnerships, and volunteers.
This has just been a phenomenal effort, and again, it's been a steady stream of folks, families who are coming through to get food, and we're just glad and proud that we're able to help them.
Food Bank of the Rockies was essential to Denver's efforts. Serving half of Colorado and all of Wyoming, the organization has the largest service area outside of Alaska.
And we really try to ensure we serve every community member who might be food insecure at this time.
The work being done at the Food Bank of the Rockies goes beyond the holidays. Their services are needed year-round, and the demand continues to grow.
Food insecurity is not going anywhere, regardless of the time of year. The challenge right now is that, compounded by the global pandemic, we're also seeing inflation at a 40-year high. There's so many things right now that are costing households more to purchase than they were even a year ago. And so we're seeing people turn to food banks for the first time right now, just to be able to make ends meet between paychecks.
In the past fiscal year, Food Bank of the Rockies distributed enough food for 178,000 meals. One major way people can help end food insecurity is through a financial contribution.
$1 helps us distribute enough food for 3 meals. And that's due to like our purchasing power, as well as our partnerships with grocery stores and agricultural outfits. You know, we get donated product. And so really, when it comes to supporting communities and ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to thrive, a donation goes a long way in supporting that work.
October's achievements are only the beginning. The relief effort continues with organizations across the city throughout the year, but they need your help.
And so by coming together, I mean, this is the only way that we can address needs such as this, is when city government and nonprofits and businesses and residents all come together to address this need.
We were contacted through some other agencies, including the mayor's office, asking if we would assist with the distribution of these food items and stuff. So that's what we came out to do, was be a part of the community and to assist wherever needed.
This is a time of year in which we are meant to give thanks. Through talking with these people and watching as they work to help those in need, there came an incredible sense of pride and gratitude towards everyone involved.
What I've discovered in terms of volunteering, because I volunteer at another organization, is just to get out and start looking. There's more people in the city than I realized that are in positions of need. So the best advice that I would have, if you don't have a specific organization, is just to be out, moving, and active. And believe it or not, organizations, the knowledge of organizations will come to you.
Find something to volunteer for because it takes you out of yourself. There's always something to give back, and by giving back, you make the world a better place.
Where I come from, I just look at it and I just call it mutual benefit and growth, because we benefit from it as much as they do. We get a gain from it as well.
You know, we have to recognize we're a village, and our neighbors, many of our neighbors are hurting. We may not know that they're food insecure. We couldn't do it without our volunteers, and we've got dozens of them here, and we're just absolutely grateful for them.
To help continue this good work, donate clothing, make a financial contribution, or simply volunteer your time. Every effort, whether big or small, makes a difference for someone in need. Stay elevated by subscribing to the city's YouTube page for these stories and more. And stay tuned to our social media channels for more content. Don't miss our new episodes of Elevating Denver, premiering each month. Thanks for watching, Denver.